All right, today I'm going to talk about the top places to find, recruit remote talent, what countries are the best, what websites are the best, and also how much you pay these people, typically depending on what country they're in. So a little bit of background, I recruit a ton of remote talent. We've worked with remote talent pretty much since day one. Made This has been a remote company since 2013 because I was working a full-time job. I needed to have remote talent to begin with, so I started this journey in 2013. And have since then worked with dozens of people fully remotely. And here's the fact, there's so much talent in the world, right? There's so many people in other countries who are highly specialized, who have a lot of skill sets. And the reality is, for a local business, you no longer need to have people only local, which is what we know. Therefore, why not recruit from the best talent around the world? So I set off on a quest to do that and found a lot of amazing people. My team currently is based in, I believe, 8 different countries. We have our sales team in South Africa. And if you think about people in South Africa, they have an awesome accent, like a very British sounding accent. Americans love accents, so it works perfectly. So we route all our sales calls over there. It's actually a team of Jehovah's Witnesses over in the mountains in South Africa, which is kind of funny. But if you think about it, they do 2 years of door-to-door sales, selling religion, great community values, great family values. So it's a fantastic little niche for a sales team. And most of our admin team, in terms of like office staff, are based in Latin America. Why? Because a lot of the workers we work with at Made This are Hispanic. So just that Spanish speaking communication often makes things a lot better and a lot easier. So anyways, that's a place we recruit heavily from in different countries in Latin America. And I'm going to talk about where and why. So first off, where do you recruit these people? There's a ton of different places online. I'm going to list some. One place would be Upwork, upwork.com. Another place would be Dynamite Jobs. Another place would be We Work Remotely. So let me talk about Upwork a little bit. Upwork is a fantastic place to find freelancers anywhere in the world. It's one of the biggest marketplaces in the world for freelancers. You can get US-based freelancers, Canada-based freelancers, Africa-based freelancers, anywhere. Everyone's on Upwork. It used to be a couple different companies. There used to be like Odesk and something else. Anyways, they combined and made one company, which is called Upwork. So this is kind of like the Indeed of finding remote talent. What I mean by that is, like, everyone's on there, but you also get so many applicants where it's kind of overwhelming. So the secret to Upwork is you're going to post an ad on there, and number one, make your job ad fun. That's key, because there's so many people who say, I need someone to do back office admin stuff, please apply. Like, it's kind of boring and dull. People don't really go out of their way to apply to your job. What I found is that when we make the job ad fun, people show up on the first call super amped. The show up rates are higher. People are really amped and already logged into the culture. So number one, make your job ad really, really fun. Always include a secret word in the job ad on Upwork. So we always do something where there's the job ad, and at the bottom of it, there'll be something like, write pineapple on pizza is weird, or reply back with your favorite movie in your cover letter. If you do not do this, we will not consider your application. This is a small hoop that they need to jump through, and you can then quickly assess if they follow directions and read it or not. There's some people who apply and they don't do that. I just don't even look at their application. Why? Because there's 100 other people who applied to the same job on Upwork. It's a big avalanche of people. So having that secret word in there really curates things. So you're going to find someone on Upwork that way. Another place I love to use is Dynamite Jobs. Dynamite Jobs, I feel like the quality of the people is higher. You pay more for it though. Like, each job posting can be like $200, $300 at least. But I think the quality of the people are higher. So it depends on what you're looking for. You're looking for a short-term project type of person, go to Upwork. It's probably going to be the easiest. But if you're looking for someone longer term, someone who's a little bit more savvy, that person often can be found on Dynamite Jobs. It's more of a curated list. So those are my two kind of go-tos when it comes to remote work and talent recruiting. The cool thing is you could specify what countries to pick from. So real quick, the last one I'd recommend is called We Work Remotely. That's another place of online, a marketplace for like other online talent, but typically we only use Upwork and Dynamite Jobs for now. I'm sure there's other places. Those are the best ones I found. The countries, what countries do you recruit from? We've tried out a lot of different countries, and here's what I found. The people in the Philippines are known for being VAs. VAs and virtual assistants. I actually don't like that word that much, because I think they could be much more than that. But a lot of people consider, hey, you're in the Philippines, you're a VA. What that essentially means is a remote team talent in the Philippines. And the Philippines is known for it. They have a great reputation for having remote team talent. And a lot of people recruit from Philippines, number one, because it's cheap. You could probably get someone for $600 full-time, $600 to $1,000 full-time, which is pretty cheap. In the Philippines, that's great wage, right? So that's something you can get someone over there for that amount. What I've noticed about the Philippine labor force, and can't generalize everyone, but they need directions And that's kind of the culture there. You need to tell them exactly what you want done, and they can do exactly that. There's not as much critical thinking. I'm not saying that's for everyone. Obviously, if you pay more and get someone at a much more high level, you're going to get a lot of that critical thinking. But for oftentimes people go there to get cheap labor at $600 a month. The critical thinking isn't there as much. They do tasks. That's what they're good for. So don't put someone from the Philippines who's very task oriented in a role which requires a lot of critical thinking. For example, within Mavis, we have someone who has to handle daily operations, like a cleaner calls in with a problem, they have to quickly troubleshoot it and figure out a solution. Someone in the Philippines might not be the best fit for that, because that requires a lot of dynamic things to happen, right? So you just really have to vet where they're coming from. So we actually don't really recruit in the Philippines at all, not just for that reason, but we're also in LA time zone. That's literally midnight to 9 a.m. their time. So we tried it once and it wasn't really working. So where we recruit almost exclusively for operations is Latin America. I specifically like the Central American countries. So we recruit a lot in Honduras. The reason is because there's actually a lot of US-based call centers who opened up in Honduras. So what that means is a lot of people who worked at those large call centers kind of come trained with English-speaking US customs, things like that. So you can kind of recruit talent who have already been working at call centers. It's interesting because I'll find people who apply through Upwork and Dynamite Jobs, and oftentimes if they're from Honduras, they have some experience working with a US-based company just through a call center. It's just kind of how it is in Honduras, and something I just found out. We had a worker in El Salvador before. It's not as common. Mexico is fantastic because they understand, it's just very close tied to the US, so they understand a lot of the US customs. A lot of people in Mexico who we end up working with from Upwork, Dynamite Jobs, they lived in the US for a certain period of time, then moved to Mexico. So they just get it, right? So that's another place we'll recruit from as well. If I see someone from Mexico, most of the time they already know US customs. Not always, but most of the time. I'll recruit anywhere in Latin America, Guatemala, Salvador, Nicaragua, like fantastic people there. To be honest, I haven't really found people in Panama because I think Panama is also, there's a higher cost of living there. It's surprisingly expensive. I went there earlier this year and it's cheaper than the US, but not by that much. It's just a little bit more expensive to recruit talent from Panama. So in my mind, I can find equal talent elsewhere. Why not go elsewhere? Another place which is I found is Spanish speakers in Colombia. The thing with Colombia is the English has not been as great from what I found from the talent in Colombia. So I haven't really been able to recruit people from Colombia. Venezuela though, the English in some cases may not be as good, but you get very talented people in Venezuela, and here's why. Venezuela has high inflation right now. And what that means is people who have normal jobs in Venezuela who get paid in the Venezuelan currency, they're losing money pretty much day after day. Like the inflation rate is like 1,000% a year. It's ridiculous. So a lot of these people want US dollars, and US dollars are worth so much more in Venezuela. And now you have very high level people who have MBAs, people who have engineering degrees who are willing to take remote work in the US. So we just hired 2 people in Venezuela for our LA operations. Both of them have engineering degrees. So you can think about the type of person who could get an engineering degree. They're smarter than me. Like they're very sharp in the way they do critical thinking, and you can get really talented people in Venezuela right now. The problem is how to pay them, but they have a lot of ways of how to actually get US money, so it's not that big of a deal. But Venezuela is actually kind of a hidden gem of where to recruit right now. Another place in Latin America I think is fantastic right now is Argentina. For the same reason as Venezuela, is they have hyperinflation. They want US dollars. A small story is I went to Argentina in 2015, and the exchange rate at that time was $1 US to about 15 Argentinian peso. But you can bring US dollars, hard cash, into the country, and guys on the street would give you 20 or 25 peso for that dollar. Because they can't take out US dollars there from the bank, but if you bring in US dollars, they want to hold US dollars because the inflation is so high. Now the exchange rate I think is like 1 to 150. So it literally in 5 or 7 years, it went 10x. So clearly the currency is not doing well. People want US dollars over there because of hyperinflation. So again, you could find really, really talented people who previously had jobs getting paid in Argentinian currency who now want US dollars and are willing to work for you. And those are fantastic hires, very, very sharp people. So those are great countries to recruit in. Our typical pay range for positions, it varies. Typically it can be between $1,000 to $1,500 per month for Latin American talent. It could go up if you want someone very high level and skilled. They could command $2,000, $2,500. I'm sure you could also go cheaper than that as well. But there's kind of a certain point where you realize you just want talented people and you're willing to pay up a little bit more for it, right? So rather than saying, hey, my budget's $600 per month for someone full-time, you say, okay, I'm willing to spend $1,200, right? Double the amount, but I could have someone higher level That's typically what I recommend, right? It's not breaking the bank at that point. You're spending $600 more and you get someone who fits exactly what you're looking for. And I found you can find talent for around 1,000 to 1,500 for those kind of entry level tasks that you're doing for your company. Another place I mentioned earlier that we recruit is South Africa. It kind of just happened by chance, honestly. I was in Upwork and found a guy who was awesome. His name's Len. He's on my team. And he was part of the Jehovah's Witness community, and it kind of opened the doors there. But based off of that, I have a very positive opinion of people in South Africa. But we haven't typically recruited anyone in operations there. Mostly it would be sales are based over there because of their experience and their accent, things like that. So yeah, that's a little bit of insight into where we recruit, how we recruit, and the entire process. Hopefully you got some value out of this. See you next time.